Should we try one more of those? I discovered this glass jar in an antique shop in my local town. And I've had this little chunk of wood just kind of laying around for a while. And it was literally removing the lid from this jar and dropping this piece of wood in here, kind of like this. I mean, you have to sort of admit that the wood just kind of fits in there perfectly. And naturally, when something just sort of fits into a jar so perfectly like that, it started stirring up the creative juices in my head. I started taking stock of all of the materials and everything that I had on hand. And the creation that we're about to witness on today's video is, I would say it was born, but it's being born. We're watching it together right now. To sum it up, I was inspired by dropping a chunk of wood in an old antique glass jar that I found in the shop near my local area. And we're gonna build something amazing. If you're wondering what this blue light shining on my face is, go check out my previous 2 videos that were all about the reef build that we're currently smack dab in the middle of doing. This isn't a reef build though, this is a terrarium build. And the first thing that we generally wanna do with a terrarium is build some sort of what's called a false bottom. That is some sort of like a rocky structure. I've got a bunch of black, I've got a bunch of black lava rock that we're gonna be using. I think I'm gonna go a little nuts with the lava rock and just, you know, sort of create, not the entire background, but we're gonna add some little areas. We're gonna create some dimension in this little jar terrarium here with this lava rock. Is that enough? And a little bit goes a long way. And we're gonna start to build just like a base structure on this thing. Are you getting a decent view of that? Maybe I should get a light. There you go. That should be a little bit better. So you can see the way that I'm just sort of building up into the background a little bit. I don't want to go too far up into the background, but I do want to sort of create, I don't know, just a little bit of a bowl type appearance here. Don't forget we're going to have soil and stuff all over the front here, so we don't want to go up too high. One thing that I find you have to be slightly careful of is not overdoing it in situations like this, because it can be awfully tempting to, I don't know, to just start adding one more thing and one more thing and one more thing in there. Always important to be walking around the entire view. Ignore the little scuff on the thing there, but I think it looks pretty good. Hopefully our piece of wood can still fit in there. Maybe we should give it a test run again. How did I get this thing in the first place? There we go. To be honest with you, we may have an issue. And for this, I'm gonna have to go back around the other side. We're gonna have to get a further away shot so that I have both my little fingers to use. And I don't know, maybe we can squish it down in there or something like that. Let's see. And it does actually fit in here perfectly. If you check it out, we could probably go down. Maybe we could squish it down just a pinch still. Let's go get a view from the other side while we're at it. There we go. Yeah. So we still need to fill this in with some soil. Don't forget, we're gonna plant this thing. We're gonna have stuff crawling up on the edge. And we're even gonna put a few more rocks right in this top corner, right over here, just to sort of bring the balance from what's going on down here up into this top corner. And I swear that this is the hardest part of building any terrarium. It's just on the initial structure part, it's learning when to stop. It's learning when enough is enough. To be honest with you, with this terrarium right here, I feel like I was right on the verge of enough is enough with putting these lava rocks in here. To be honest with you, I probably should have crushed them down a little bit more. I probably should have built the base up just a little bit less. But hey, not everything works out as planned, and I find that if you sort of just let these things kind of take on a life of their own as you're building them, let Mother Nature use your fingers, if you will, then things usually end up turning out for the best in the end anyways. So we're gonna flip it over. Do one more little squirt right here in the corner. Just big enough. Another bit of useful advice is you can buy these big bags of black lava rock or red lava rock or all sorts of lava rock that are used for like fireplaces and stuff like that. And just make sure you get one that's got a variety of different sizes. A lot of them will sell them in like same sizes, and then you can get ones that have just like a big mixture of different sizes. I love the black against the wood. I love the black, you know, with all of the kind of natural tones and stuff like that. And overall, it's just good stuff. Let's find a tiny little rock. Let's find one more tiny little one for this corner. I'll give you another little design tip right here, is that working in threes is usually a pretty good idea. And for now, what we're gonna have to do is we're just gonna have to wait. We're gonna have to wait for this, this great stuff expanding foam to kind of do its thing. That's gonna probably take another 30 minutes or so. And I guess I'll see you back then. Also during the commercial break, I felt it was important to show you how tedious scraping this foam off the glass is. So definitely get as little on the glass as you can. It's a little tough to get in there, but eventually you end up getting enough of it scraped off. And then another little pro tip I learned is to get a piece of paper towel. I put a little bit of alcohol on it, and I wrap my little tool like this with my makeshift alcohol swab on the end. And that just kind of allows me to stick that down in there and get in some of those crevices and pull out some of that extra dust and stuff that I've been creating. Break's over. Foam's done expanding. Everything's nice and solid. I can shake this thing up and nothing is moving. Ow. Jeez Louise. You got my toe. Jeez. Yeah. What is... I can't get going here. Anyways, the professional way that we're gonna solve all of this nasty looking stuff right in the front here is we're just gonna take some of our dirt, some of our pre-mixed terrarium dirt that we got right here. Hold on, let me give you a good view. This is sphagnum moss, peat moss, and vermiculite. It's the only 3 ingredients I use. So we're gonna take a handful of this stuff, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start throwing handfuls down into here. We're really gonna kind of push this dirt down into the crevices, especially down in the front. We're kind of, you know, speeding up evolution. We're using our little tools here. We're using our little man-made things. We're using our brains to kind of shift stuff around in here and move it into place and move it exactly where we think it should look to essentially look like it's been there for, you know, 1,000 years, and like nature itself has just been kind of weathering this thing together. You know what it actually feels like doing this? It feels like one of those like dinosaur fossil games for kids where you're sort of chipping away and you're exposing the little pieces of wood like I'm exposing down here. You also kind of feel like this segment where we're shoving things down into the front has played itself out. Because I sure feel like it's played itself out. I'm sure you're sick of watching me pound away at this thing. The truth is that this section is just sort of one of those sections that you got to do. You just got to take the time to kind of pound everything into place, to kind of get it all looking good. And did I mention that I've also got another trick up my sleeve? Another thing that's going to bring this thing to life even more? I probably haven't mentioned that yet, but I'm mentioning it now. And the next time you see me, we'll be doing just that. The next step to bringing this thing to life is going to be to literally add life. So let's decide the plants that are going to go in this thing. So one plant that I know we're going to use is this one right here. And this is called Japanese sweetgrass. So let's put that over there. And next, I think we're going for one of these ones that I've been sort of holding off on, just because I didn't really know what to do with them. But I think the color of this vine right here is going to not only go really well with this Japanese sweetgrass, but I also think that we can possibly get that vine growing up this this little piece of wood here, and I think it's gonna look really cool in the end. So we don't wanna go too crazy with the plants, but I am going to I'll grab this clipping right here. So I've got a clump of Japanese sweetgrass, and I've got a couple little clippings of, to be honest with you, I'm not sure what. I'll put the actual scientific names up on the screen somewhere here. I want to rip this into 2 little clumps. And every time you're working with Japanese sweetgrass, you need to smell it. It smells kind of like, it smells like walking into like a pet store, like a PetSmart or a Petco. You gotta be a little forceful sometimes and get these plants really kind of shoved in between the structure. And don't forget, we're also gonna do we're gonna do a couple more detailing phases after this as well. Every time I'm using my fancy terrarium tools and things like this, I find that, especially with things like planting the plants and just kind of getting everything to start looking like it's natural, your fingers are your best tool, and they've been with you all along. Who knew? I think we're gonna aim for right in this front corner for this larger one. Again, I'm kind of hoping that these things will eventually grow up over this piece of wood here. I guess the idea would be that it grows up onto this plant right here. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. In fact, we do have one more form of life that we're going to add to this terrarium. In my opinion, no terrarium is quite complete without it. And that's the most natural thing that you find on the forest floor. If you've seen my previous videos, you know that it's my absolute favorite plant in the whole world. So I'm only going to use one type of moss, and I've got it waiting up here somewhere. I guess we'll just kind of go with the luck of whichever one we pick first. Yeah, that'll work perfect. This is, I don't even know the names, to be honest with you. It looks like some sort of a fern moss to me, or who knows. I don't claim to be a moss expert, to be honest with you. But what I do claim is that I love moss. I love using moss in terrariums. It holds in the humidity. It sort of brings everything together. It fills in all the cracks and the crevices. It's the most easiest plant in the whole wide world to grow. We've still got some detail work just looking at this thing from the front, but nonetheless, it's time to get to that almost final step where we're finally adding the moss. We're gonna bring everything together this time. And I'll give you an even better view in just a minute. But you can probably start to see already just how much it kind of brings everything to life. Look at how I can kind of squish it down under the piece of wood here, and it just sort of starts to bring everything to life a little bit more. Just like I've been pointing out for the rest of this video, you really want to be careful with when you're planting these things too. You don't want to put too much moss. You don't want moss on every single section of this thing. You just want to have it in enough places to where it looks good, it looks cohesive. Maybe a little bit more right here on top. The thing that I'm going to use to bring the moss up onto the back walls of this terrarium, the thing that I'm going to use to get the moss into the little crevices around the edges of the wood and stuff like that is it's simply natural modeling clay. I've used this a few times on this channel. It's what I always use to stick moss to anything that it needs to be stuck with. And judging by the other terrariums I've built with it, like this one for example, it holds up pretty well. We're going to create a sticky mud so that we can actually stick some of the moss into those areas where naturally it wouldn't be. But before we do that, I'm going to take my detailing tool. I'm going to spare you the drama of all of this. I'm going to continue to go in here and kind of mush things down. Again, this is the part that it just takes time. You got to get in there. You got to squish the dirt down, especially on the moss phase, and especially right down here in the front, and especially when you've built it up a little bit too high like I have. But again, that's the beauty of moss. All of these details. Oh, whoa. And before you know it, everything will start coming to life. But we're jumping ahead of ourselves, aren't we? We're supposed to be making a sticky mud stick some sticky moss on the back of this wall and to finish out all the little details. Let's get to that part now. Now it's time to squish it all up. This is the part where you get it all over your fingers. I feel like you're really starting to make a mess. I feel like you're really starting to build a true terrarium here. Am I shaking the camera because I'm working it so hard? I think. Oh. Let me clean my hands off before I operate the camera, obviously. At least a little bit. That's pretty good. For this little spot right in the front there, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab a chunk of moss, just like that. We're gonna pinch some mud, as if we're, you know, what is it like we're doing now? Almost like we're eating a fine Indian cuisine. And then maybe one more squeeze of moss right up in here, just to kind of seal it all in. Again, we're just trying to hide all of these unnatural looking details. Should I get you one more up close shot while we're at it? We're almost done here. Just got a little bit more moss to put right up around the top. And then of course, before we finish, we have to back up, step out, look from the front, admire our work, see if there's anywhere that needs a little bit of trimming, a little bit of detailing. And then there we pretty much have it. I think the only thing I'm unhappy with is this little space over here. I think we're gonna add one more plant. One of these plants right here would be pretty good. Let's find one that's actually had a clipping growing for a while. Maybe this little guy right here will be perfect in there. Again, stick that right on this other side. Don't forget that part of the fun of this terrarium is going to be watching all these little vines grow, watching all these little clippings start to take over, watching the moss kind of fill into areas, going in there, trimming it up, just kind of watching nature do what it does in a little glass bottle. That's the beauty of creating something like this, is you never quite know what's going to happen. It's just like it's a little slice of earth. It's a little slice of earth that we literally get to watch. It's a literal slice of earth that we've created ourselves that we get to just sort of watch do its thing. And in some way it's so simple it's boring, but in other ways it's so boring it's beautiful. Now I've got one last thing to do. I need to grab a rag. I need to polish this thing up. I need to get rid of all of the grunge, all of the little details. Again, I need to spend a little bit of time still shoving some of that moss into the little cracks and the little crevices and that sort of thing. Once I've got this terrarium sparkling, once I've got it all shined up, we're gonna do our final photo. Turn off the plant room lights. And that, my friends, is how you find a jar suitable for a terrarium in an antique store in your little town. And you plop a piece of wood in it. You start to imagine the life that's going to burst inside of this thing. And then naturally you take that inspiration and you build that very terrarium. And that's exactly what we did here on this video. If you made it this far, this terrarium is actually going to be for sale on my online plant store. Check the description for the link to wherever that is. But yes, you could be the owner of this terrarium. It's a new thing I'm trying with my plant store. It's kind of the thing that it's kind of the thing that I've always dreamed of doing anyways. Otherwise, what else do I have to talk about? What else can I fit into the last little moments of this video? I've still got my reef project back here. The next video probably is gonna be adding life to this reef tank back here. I'm so super excited about that. I can't even describe, but what can I say? I was inspired by plopping a piece of wood. It inspired me to take what was before just a boring old jar and turn it into something that's alive. We got to turn it into something that's actually gonna grow and change and evolve just like us.